The Roman authorities had to deal with the cult of Christianity for almost the entire period of Rome, since Jesus Christ is said to have been born in the time of the Roman Emperor Caesar Augustus, the first emperor, and went on from there for several centuries until eventually Constantine decided to co-opt and adopt Christianity as the legitimating cement to hold the Roman Empire together in the year 312, which is one of the most important events in the history of the world, because Constantine's appropriation of Christianity for the purposes of legitimating the Roman state had a spectacular impact both on Christianity and the Roman state. In the 3rd century, the Roman emperors, you will remember, in the Anarchy of the 3rd century, had average reigns of 2 years or something like that. And every single emperor between the death of Septimius Severus in 211 and the accession of Diocletian in 284 was killed in office without exception. Sometimes Claudius Gothicus is said to have died of the plague, but actually that was just to cover up that he was murdered because Constantine tried to claim descent from him and didn't want him to appear to have met the same fate as all the other ones. And yet between 312, when Constantine established his legitimate succession, and 602, there was not a single successful military coup in the Roman Empire centered on Constantinople. So Constantine's stroke established a brilliant stability of almost 300 years, political stability in the Eastern Empire. But it carried with it seeds of destruction as well, because using religion for legitimating purposes proved to be slippery and hazardous, as Constantine's successors found. Constantine himself became a Christian in slow stages, and he hoped that Christianity would provide a support network for him, and it did, because the Christians, while having been disassociated with the state previously, now became quite enthusiastic that the state was suddenly on their side. And so, on the whole, they failed to oppose that move. And there's the point that I just stated verbally. I see I have it written here about political stability. And here you have a statue of Constantine with his all-seeing huge eyes portrayed as, and this is actually a head surviving from a colossal statue of Constantine that I don't remember how high, it might have been 30 feet high or something. And on the upper right, you see Soli Invictu Comiti, to the unconquerable sun god, who was the personal god of Constantine before he adopted Christ. So you see the solar crown on the sun god with the rays radiating from it, and holding the orb of the sun in his hand, and also being naked. And down here, from a slightly later coin, a very early picture of what Constantine has. Here on the Roman standard between the two soldiers, you can see the Chi, which is XP, that are the two Greek letters representing the first two letters of Christ's name that Constantine had ordered emblazoned on the regalia of the Roman army. And gradually, not under Constantine, but as time went on, other religions became restricted. So Christianity became the official state religion, and from 385 to 415, paganism was gradually prohibited. Pagan temples were destroyed or converted into churches, and an event of 415 that you might recall was when the pagan woman philosopher Hypatia was lynched in Alexandria and torn to pieces in the streets. In Alexandria, people being torn to pieces in the streets was quite a frequent event in history, and one has to wonder and question and be concerned with what exactly the meaning of that is, because it's an expression of a kind of popular outburst that happened in Egypt and may have been connected with the fact that the Romans were engaged in a long-term occupation of Egypt, which created a lot of tension in the country. Judaism and Samaritanism were two religions which continued to be allowed alongside of Christianity. However, by 632, interestingly, the very year the Prophet Muhammad died, the Emperor Heraclius ordered the forcible baptism of the Jews. That way, without actually prohibiting Judaism, he could end the Jewish religion, because if someone was baptized and then refused the new religion, they would be an apostate and could be executed. However, this actually did not work, and it did create a lot of animosity, increased animosity among the Jews for the Roman state, as is understandable. The church under the Roman Empire was organized into provinces that coincided more or less with those of the Roman Empire. So each city's Christians were under a bishop, and the more important cities claimed the right to rule over the lesser ones, including the right to appoint the bishops of the lesser cities. And after Constantine, there were three supreme patriarchs in charge of the church: the Bishop of Rome, the Bishop of Alexandria, and the Bishop of Antioch. And there was never any time when Alexandria and Antioch conceded any political rights to the Roman bishop, which is the theory of the Catholic Church, that the Roman bishop has precedence over the others and the right to boss them around. Well, Alexandria and Antioch never conceded that. And to this day, the Egyptian Coptic Church even calls, in English translation, its own supreme leader the Pope, so that they have the Coptic Pope, who is Shenouda III in Egypt to this day. Constantinople, founded as an important city, was added as a fourth patriarchate in the Second Ecumenical Council in 380, and Jerusalem was added as the fifth patriarchate in the Third Ecumenical Council at 431. Jerusalem, however, being a very small town, never achieved the importance of the other four. And the rivalry amongst the patriarchates becomes a major theme in the period we're speaking of 500 to 700, and it becomes a major cause of the downfall of the Roman Empire and the rise of the Muslim state, therefore, especially between Constantinople and Alexandria. Constantinople is the political capital. Alexandria was the second largest city. This map is an old map that illustrates the patriarchates, and if you look closely at it, you can see their boundaries. So here's the Patriarchate of Rome, and the boundary of it is way over here. So Greece is actually, at that time, which today is Greek Orthodox country, under the Roman Patriarch, who is the Pope. And then you have Constantinople ruling over Thrace and Asia Minor, Antioch having Syria, Jerusalem having a small area there, and Egypt being under Alexandria. So that was the geographical distribution of the patriarchates.